the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, which encompasses the boroughs of Manhattan and the Bronx in New York City, along with Dutchess, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Sullivan, and Westchester counties. The office prosecutes cases involving violations of federal laws, and represents the interests of the United States government and its agencies in criminal and civil matters. The office investigates and prosecutes a broad array of criminal conduct of every conceivable magnitude, even when the conduct arises in distant places. Today, the office is at the forefront of many important areas of criminal law enforcement, including terrorism, white-collar and cybercrime, mortgage fraud, public corruption, gang violence, organized crime, international narcotics trafficking and civil rights violations. Similarly, the office litigates among the most complex and significant civil cases the Department of Justice handles, from large affirmative civil fraud cases to cases in the environmental, healthcare, immigration, and bankruptcy areas, as well as cases implicating classified information. June 7, 2024. Former high school dean sentenced to life, plus 5 years in prison for 2010 murder. The defendant, the leader of the GMGYGZ street gang, also sentenced for firearms and narcotics offenses. Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, announced that Israel Garcia, aka Shorty Rock, the former leader of the Get Money Gunnas set of the Young Gunnas street gang, the GMGYGZ, was sentenced to life plus 5 years in prison for the October 11, 2010 murder of Alfonso Joey McClinton. Garcia shot and killed McClinton on a residential street in the Bronx, New York, as part of a dispute over narcotics trafficking territory. Following a 7-day trial in July 2023 before U.S. District Judge Jed S. Rakoff, who imposed today's sentence, a jury also convicted Garcia of engaging in a conspiracy to distribute narcotics, murder while engaged in a narcotics conspiracy, murder through the use of a firearm, possessing firearms in connection with narcotics trafficking, and attempted witness tampering. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said, "Today's strong sentence reflects our unwavering commitment to holding those who take another life fully accountable for their heinous crimes." Israel Garcia, a former high school dean who could have had a positive impact on our community, will now spend the rest of his life in prison for the brutal murder of Joey McClinton, for engaging in a narcotics conspiracy, and for witness tampering. I commend the career prosecutors of this office and our law enforcement partners for doggedly pursuing this case and for bringing justice to Joey McClinton, nearly 14 years after his death. According to court filings and the evidence presented in court during trial, for more than a decade, the defendant controlled the sale of narcotics in the vicinity of East 184th Street and Morris Avenue in the Bronx as the leader of the GMGYGZ. As part of their narcotics operation, GMGYGZ members carried firearms and engaged in back-and-forth shootings with neighboring, rival crews. This violence resulted in, among other acts, the 2010 murder of Alfonso Joey McClinton. The state of New York arrested and prosecuted GMGYGZ member Joseph Johnson, aka Juice, for the killing one. However, ballistics, video evidence, and eyewitness testimony revealed that there was a second shooter involved in Mr. McClinton's murder. Garcia was that second shooter. When Garcia became concerned that Johnson might cooperate with law enforcement, Garcia took steps to prevent Johnson from identifying Garcia as the person with whom he committed the murder. June 10, 2024. 2 defendants charged with federal narcotics offenses in connection with the poisoning of 4 children at a Bronx daycare plead guilty. Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and Darcel D. Clark, the Bronx County District Attorney, announced today that, on the morning he was scheduled to begin trial, Felix Herrera Garcia pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death and serious bodily injury, as well as possession of narcotics with intent to distribute, resulting in death and serious bodily injury. all in connection with the poisoning of 4 children under the age of 3, one of whom died, at a daycare facility in the Bronx, the daycare, on September 15, 2023. Approximately 2 weeks ago, on May 23, 2024, Renny Antonio Parra Paredes pled guilty to conspiring to distribute narcotics and stipulated that his conduct caused death and serious bodily injury, in connection with his role in the poisonings. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said, in September 2023, 4 children at a Bronx daycare were poisoned by fentanyl. The children were seriously injured, and 1 baby died. This happened because, as they admitted in court, Felix Herrera Garcia and Renny Antonio Parra Paredes operated an illegal fentanyl operation out of the center, where they processed the deadly drugs for sale. We said at the time that this case shocks the conscience of the city, and now Herrera Garcia and Parra Paredes have been brought to justice for this heinous crime. Bronx County District Attorney Darcel D. Clark said. Today, on the morning his trial was set to begin in Manhattan Federal Court, Felix Herrera Garcia pled guilty to conspiracy to distribute narcotics, resulting in death and other federal charges for causing the fatal fentanyl ingestion of 22-month-old Nicholas Dominici and the injury to 3 other babies at the Divino Nino Daycare Center in the Bronx on September 15, 2023. Herrera Garcia has now been held accountable in the tragic loss of little Nicholas, the serious injury of Abel, and the harm to Kiara and Jaziel, as alleged in public filings. From at least in or about October 2022 through at least in or about September 2023. Herrera Garcia, Parra Paredes, and others conspired to distribute fentanyl, parafluorofentanyl, and heroin, including at the daycare. There, despite the daily presence of children, including infants, Herrera Garcia, Parra Paredes, and their co-conspirators maintained large quantities of fentanyl, including more than 10 kilograms of narcotics hidden inside secret compartments, or traps, located beneath the floor of the daycare's playroom. As a consequence of the drug conspiracy perpetrated by Herrera Garcia, Parra Paredes, and their co-conspirators, on or about September 15, 2023, 4 children at the daycare, who were all under 3 years of age, experienced the effects of poisoning from exposure to fentanyl. 3 of the children were hospitalized. The 4th child, a boy just under 2 years of age, died. Herrera Garcia, 35, of the Bronx, New York, pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death and serious bodily injury, 1 count of possession with intent to distribute narcotics resulting in death, and 1 count of possession with intent to distribute narcotics resulting in serious bodily injury. All 3 counts carry a mandatory minimum sentence of 20 years in prison and a maximum sentence of life in prison. Parra Paredes, 38, of the Bronx, New York, pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute narcotics resulting in death and serious bodily injury, which carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years in prison and a maximum sentence of life in prison. The statutory minimum and maximum sentences are prescribed by Congress and are provided here for informational purposes only, as any sentencing of the defendants will be determined by the judge. Mr. Williams praised the outstanding investigative work of the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, the New York City Police Department, NYPD, the Southern District of New York Digital Forensic Unit, the Complex Analytical and Social Media Enhancement Team, at the New York/New Jersey High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, ACTIV, New York Strike Force, and the United States Marshals Service, USMS. Mr. Williams also thanks the New York/New Jersey Regional Fugitive Task Force of the USMS, the USMS Office of International Operations, the USMS for the Southern District of New York, the USMS for the Southern District of Texas, the USMS for the Southern District of California, the USMS Mexico Field Office, the USMS Investigative Operations Division, the DEA New York Strike Force, the DEA Regional Office in Allentown, Pennsylvania, the DEA Regional Office in McAllen, Texas, the DEA Regional Office in Mexico City, Mexico, the DEA Regional Office in Hermosillo, Mexico, the DEA Regional Office in Monterrey, Mexico, the DEA Special Operations Division, the NYPD 52nd Precinct's Detective Squad, The NYPD Bronx Homicide Squad. The Office of International Affairs of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Texas. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of California. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and Mexican federal and state authorities. The active New York Strike Force provides for the establishment of permanent multi-agency task force teams that work side by side in the same location. This co-located model enables agents from different agencies to collaborate on intelligence-driven, multi-jurisdictional operations to disrupt and dismantle the most significant drug traffickers, money launderers, gangs, and transnational criminal organizations. The specific mission of the New York Strike Force is to target, disrupt, and dismantle drug trafficking and money laundering organizations, reduce the illegal drug supply in the United States, and bring criminals to justice.
Shocking new details in the investigation into a Bronx daycare where a 1-year-old was killed from suspected fentanyl poisoning.
Fox 5's Antoine Lewis joins us live from the scene. And Antoine, police say they found a trap door today.
Absolutely. We'll show you video and pictures of that as well. Steve, that also goes to what police are saying. A major drug operation was definitely taking place here. Crime scene investigators spent hours Thursday inside the Divino Nino daycare in the Bronx, now being investigated as the site of a drug distribution ring. A trap door was discovered Wednesday night by investigators inside the apartment that housed Divino Nino. Neighbors are still in shock.
That's terrible. So I think so the city needs to check every daycare in the area.
Daycare owner Gray Mendez and her tenant Carlisto Acevedo Brito were set to appear in Bronx criminal court Thursday. Their appearances were waived by their attorneys. Both are facing charges including possession with intent to distribute narcotics resulting in death. Last Friday, officials say fentanyl poisoned 4 small children inside the daycare. Authorities say one of those children, 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici, died from fentanyl exposure.
What was your reaction when you found out? Were you mad? Did you cry?
Yeah, it was upsetting because they're supposed to take care of the baby. The children.
Investigators say so far a kilo of fentanyl and drug-making equipment have been recovered along with other evidence. Mendez is also accused of trying to cover up her role. Prosecutors say she made 3 calls before dialing 911. 2 were to her husband, the third suspect. Officials say she deleted nearly 20,000 text messages to her husband, who police believe is now on the run.
It's really hard to process because, you bring your children to a daycare and you expect them to be taken care of.
But for Victor Fabiano, this tragedy hits particularly close to home. He and his wife run a daycare out of their own apartment just up the street from Divino Nino.
We've been doing things the way we normally do it. Because this is an exception, but it's going to be hard for everybody. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be changing for all the other daycares. They're probably going to be inspecting a lot more, looking for a lot more, and who knows what else they will come up with. But I understand.
Again, Steve and Natasha, police are still trying to find the husband of Gray Mendez. They say he's wanted for questioning in this matter at this point. Nonetheless, both she and Carlisto Acevedo Brito will be back in court on October the 5th. Back inside to you.
All right, Antoine, thank you.
Equality before the law, also known as equality under the law. Equality in the eyes of the law, legal equality, or legal egalitarianism, is the principle that all people must be equally protected by the law. The rule of law is a political ideal that all citizens and institutions within a country, state, or community are accountable to the same laws, including lawmakers and leaders. It is sometimes stated simply as no one is above the law.